Good afternoon, everybody. How are y'all doing? Great. So I just want to thank Secretary Hall and the leadership team of the Governor's Working Group for this opportunity. Um, as we look to celebrate Women's History Month and the planning for our next Women Veterans Summit and Expo, Women's Mill Vets Summit and Expo on May 2nd, we're just grateful to have this dialogue today about the status of women veterans and the challenges we face. But you see the flyer for the event is on the table if you haven't seen it. It's on the table May 2nd at the McKimmon Center. Registration is open. Broke it good. We also have on the website the link if you want to be a sponsor or if you want to be an exhibitor.
We're going to start taking a look at some numbers from the National Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics from 2016. Of course, they're a little bit behind, but these are pretty good numbers for us to take a look at. North Carolina was listed as 8th in the nation for the number of veterans in our state. However, we were 6th in the nation for the number of women veterans. So we're already ahead of the national average for women veterans. We're projected as a state to become the 4th in the number of vets in less than 10 years. So looking at that next statistic there, showing that the veteran population is expected to be reduced by 1.5% per year, but the women population is expecting to be increased by another, by 1%. So if we're already ahead of the power curve, we're probably going to become even more ahead of the power curve when it comes to the number of women veterans in our state. We currently have 86,791 women veterans. Again, that was as of October of 2016. So what? Why is that important? In 2010, when my boss asked me to become the Women Veterans Coordinator for the state, I kind of thought in my mind, well, why do we need a Women Veterans Coordinator? Aren't women just veterans? I mean, we all need the same things. We need education, we need housing, we need employment. We basically need all the same things other than the medical issues and the specific physical issues to women. So that's still true. We do need the same kinds of things, but what I've found over the last 8 years is that the way that women approach needing those resources, the way they approach each other is so very different that we really do need to have a program, a comprehensive program to meet the needs. If we're going to meet women veterans where they are, then we've got 86,791 reasons to build a women veterans comprehensive program. So we're going to take a look at where we've been and talk about how we can get there.
So a quick look back at the grassroots efforts. It was only 5 years ago that folks in the field saw the need for a platform to give voice to women veterans issues. We planned to have our first women's summit, Boots to Heels, in 2013. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but what we did do was started to identify the partners and the resources that needed to come together to make it happen.
So after we started identifying those partners, we were able in 2014 to actually have our first Women Veterans Summit and Expo. We partnered with the federal VA as well as corporations, nonprofits, several of you in here. And we did some history making that year and that day. It was proclaimed for the day to be Women Veterans Day. The governor announced a plan to offer in-state tuition for veterans in community colleges, which did happen, and since that time it's also been extended to our universities. In-state tuition for veterans in North Carolina. He established the governor's working group in the format that it's in now. And also that day, the governor presented about 10 women veterans, the very first North Carolina driver's licenses that had the veteran identification on it. So we did a lot of fun stuff that day.
So we decided that this needed to be an every other year event because of all the resources and all the activity that was going on. So in 2016, we came together again, and our theme this time was sharing stories, making history. And just to point out a few things about it, it really was the power of collaboration to make this thing happen. I think this is one of the fruits of the governor's working group of bringing resources together. So whether you're federal, state, and local corporation, which I represented for 18 years, all the nonprofits, everybody doing their own thing was not as effective as everybody coming together for the greater good. So that continues to be a success story for us. The event gave a platform for voices for our women to come together. Obviously, we know there were barriers and challenges, and you'll hear more about that after our presentation, the MST, women's homelessness, unemployment. but there were also a lot of victories. And so we wanted to give voice to those victories and share the women who were making history. I know from going to integrated basic training back in the day to now women just serving all over the world and in new roles, including Ashley White, who was one of the first women to serve in the cultural support teams as part of Special Forces, to now Simone Askew, the first African American woman to be the first captain at West Point. So again, we just want to make sure that we're giving voices to our women veterans. The other piece that I'd point out was the two biggest breakout sessions was the healing through the arts and entrepreneurship. Those where women just flocked to those two breakouts. And it was, again, it showed us the need that there really need to be alternate paths to healing, right? Not just traditional medicine, whether it's through art, through paint, through horses, therapy, all that. It just really connected. We also expanded the exhibitor hall, which gave women not only access to resources, but the ability to connect with each other.
So that brings us to this year's Women MilVet Summit and Expo. And as you noticed, we've kind of touched on it a little bit. The first two were Women Veterans Summit and Expos this year. We have changed it a bit to become the Women MilVet Summit and Expo because we're reaching out more so to our women who are in the military, active, reserve, Guard, particularly those who are getting ready to transition in the next year, because they're coming from a place where the networks and supports are built into a place where they're not so sure. We know we have those resources and networks out here. We want to connect them with those. So this year our theme is going to be I Served, My Voice Matters. We chose the theme with the intent to work toward changing our culture, both within the MilVet community and the broader culture, to when we think about veterans and people in the military, to include women. And so we want to impact and change lives with relevant resources, breakouts, and a keynote conversation. We'll have Kayla Williams, the Veteran Center Director, Women Veteran Center Director. We're really excited about that. We want to reach all generations of women MilVets. We've had some feedback saying that certain groups of women veterans didn't feel like they were being addressed. So if you have ideas about that or want to give us some insight, we've really got some exciting things going on that we think is going to reach all generations of women MilVets. We want to focus, of course, again, and continuing on mental health, supporting suicide prevention, which is the top priority for the VA and Department of Health and Human Service, DHHS.
So a quick shout out to Jim Prosser and Secretary Hall for their leadership to continue this resource guide. NCVetBiz is a partner with the state for entrepreneurship, and so we were grateful to have the opportunity to have entrepreneurship recognized as a tenet. So along with employment and healthcare and all those other great things on the right side, because entrepreneurship is an alternate path to employment. The SBA recognizes it that one in every 10 veterans will be a veteran business owner. And again, entrepreneurship is that alternate path to traditional employment. If we help our veteran business owners be successful, vets will hire vets, especially vets that will never work in traditional corporate America or for the state or wherever. And then veterans that even run nonprofits. I mean, veterans just have the heart to give back. Again, one of the biggest barriers, besides lack of access to opportunities, is the lack of access to capital. And so we hope to address that. But again, veteran business owners need that help to be successful, and they will give back. And I think one of the great examples is in this room, Fred Baker, NC Brookhaven, who runs NC Brookhaven Behavioral Health, who is also personally funding an employee for the Veterans Treatment Court in Asheville. So thank you, Fred. The next slide. The other resource I will point out specifically in the resource guide, thank you, and it's on our new NCVetBiz website as a downloadable PDF, is the roadmap for the entrepreneurs. Because again, the resource guide is great because it gives you a path to look at what are the viable resources available. And now this is a roadmap to help veteran entrepreneurs, whether they want to do business in the federal government, state and local, or the public sector.
Okay, so in 2014, we came up, this group of people who have the passion and the interest and the will to work to make things better in our state for women veterans, came up with some recommendations. You can see what we did on there, and we'll talk a little bit about where we've come so far. The top one, establish a women veterans program for the state of North Carolina with a full-time program manager, has not happened and probably will not happen just with the state. But we'll talk a little bit more on the next slide about how we're still moving in that direction. We wanted to promote women who are separating from the military service, as well as all veterans, to stay in North Carolina. So we've done several things to that end. You've just heard Annette talk about the opportunities for entrepreneurship in our state, which are great and growing. We've done several things with state and federal agencies working toward making it easier for military qualifications to be applied to North Carolina requirements for certain careers, police work, transportation, and others. NC4Me has reached out to show the value of veterans to employers in our state and higher employers. We have organizations such as Dress for Success who help women make that transition from the military into civilian employment. And we could go on and on talking about all of them. So some of these are just highlights. Please don't feel bad if I didn't name you, because we know that all of you here are in support of our veterans for the state. Connecting with resources. We've got our resource guide. We've got, oh, I skipped one, representing on military and advisory and legislative committees. So we've seen women in positions in our state, such as Patricia Harris, who's been the first female commander for American Legion for the state of North Carolina. She's now on our NCMAC. We have, at the federal level, we have the Center for Women Veterans and Advisory Committee on Women Veterans. As far as connecting them with resources, we've got our resource guide that we talked about. We've got NC Serves. We now have 4 networks in the state, across the state, reaching most of our veterans, still trying to reach. We are number 2 in the number of rural veterans for the state. So we realize we've still got some work to do there reaching out, but we are heading in that direction. And we're hosting our 3rd Women MilVet Summit and Expo. But we can do more. So on the state level, we really haven't touched that last one where we're talking about really getting in there and doing some research and identifying exactly what the needs are. We're going by what we have seen and interacted with our women veterans as we've done this work. So we want to maintain and strengthen those advances from the 2014 recommendations, but we also want to move forward through partnerships to secure a grant or grants to fund a full North Carolina Women MilVets program. And forgive me for reading this. There are some people on the phone, so they may not be able to see it. So I do want to go ahead and read that vision for the mission that we have for that. So we want to strive to influence our culture to accept women who have served our country, to treat them with respect and dignity. We want to meet military women and veterans where they are, to improve awareness and connect them with benefits, services, and other women MilVets. We partner with like-minded organizations to serve women MilVets and their families. We encourage feedback and commission research to determine the state of available supports and take action to create change where needed. And that last part is a big part of why we're here and what we do, and we appreciate all that you do for us.